This is the I'm Possible Project show, where we interview real people who have achieved incredible feats in the face of overwhelming odds, showing that impossible is just a state of mind and that anything is possible. I'm your host, Joshua Rivedal.
Today, in episode 39, Stigma and My Life's Epiphany, I talk to Rick Strait. Let's jump right in.
A good friend of mine, a new friend of mine, but a guy who is an absolute fantastic person, a baller, and just a really outstanding individual. This is Rick Strait, and Rick is a suicide attempt survivor who currently works as a therapist in Missouri as a licensed professional counselor and certified substance abuse counselor. Rick's passion is working in suicide prevention and mental health awareness. He is a board member of the Eastern Chapter of Missouri's American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. He provides educational trainings, including mental health first aid. He has helped organize multiple suicide awareness conferences in Missouri, and that's one of the ways that he and I met. I spoke at one of the conferences that he organized. I'm always grateful for that. And then Rick's unique ability to bridge his knowledge and experience provides him with a depth of understanding and practical application to better serve his clients and create effective programming. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Rick Strait in a very small nutshell. Rick, thank you so much for jumping on this interview today. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Josh.
Rick, you're more than that bio. You're so many things. I've gotten a chance to know you and hang out. Some of the things we can't talk about on this interview for a variety of reasons, but some of them we can. And so I'm curious to and more so for our listeners, I want people to know Rick Strait beyond that bio. So if you could grace us with a little bit more about your background, your life, where you've been, where you're going, give us that full Rick Strait experience, please and thank you.
Nobody ever asked for that before. So basically, who I am is a proud father of 3 with 2 bonus children and grandfather to 2. As you mentioned, I manage a co-occurring drug and alcohol program in Missouri. Suicide prevention, that's kind of my passion, and it kind of is a natural fit. If you read the story, I struggled with depression growing up. After the loss of my brother, I attempted suicide, and then for many, many years, I kept it to myself. And it wasn't until a few years ago when I was able to openly talk about that it kind of really fueled this passion to educate other people about suicide prevention. Because the few times I did reach out before I attempted suicide, it wasn't that the people weren't trying to help; they just really had no clue on how to help. And so when I started this, like I said, started doing suicide prevention stuff. It took off, and it's almost all-consuming. That's why I would do it 24/7 if I could.
So you've certainly been through a lot in your life, and I can't imagine losing a brother. And I've definitely been on that doorstep of wanting to take my life in the past, and thankfully I got help and reached out and all that. But I've never really kept it a secret, for better or for worse, and I think for better. What did that feel like, keeping that secret and not telling anyone? And was there ever kind of this idea, I hope nobody ever finds out, or kind of looking around the corner? I mean, what was that like in your head of keeping that a secret?
Well, it makes sense. It's kind of twofold. One, it was kind of, I tried giving a secret to myself, if that makes sense, where I tried to act like it never happened for a part of my life. And then the other part, I got into mental health, the field, and I was afraid. If somebody found out, if they truly knew that I struggle with depression and I tried to take my own life, were they going to see me as somebody that could help other people? Our field's not always been very respectful of those with lived experience. That's changing, which I'm glad. So keeping it, I don't know, it was always there, and it was kind of always causing a lot of internal discomfort. And so the day when I finally made the decision that I was just going to tell people the truth, I was asked to do a presentation, and I was writing it was going to be professional, and it was going to be about statistics, about suicide prevention, and I felt like a fraud. And I was like, you know what, I'm tired of feeling like a fraud. So I'm going to just tell this group of 300, 400 strangers a little bit about me, who I really am, and why this is so important. So that was scary, but afterwards, it was probably the most freeing thing that I've ever felt. And I'm not going to say it's for everybody to share openly. The more I've shared it, there's still times where it's awkward. There's still sometimes people might be a little judgmental. But I found so much support from others, and I feel stronger about it the more I share it. And actually, the depression I was still struggling with. Still have times, but it's a lot less. So that's kind of how it feels to hold the secret and then letting it out.
And why? Why share it? Why now? Why at all? What is that experience for you?
Well, the why now, again, I felt like a fraud. I'm telling people, don't be ashamed of your mental illness. Don't be ashamed that you thought about or attempted suicide. But I was. And then I had somebody really close to me attempt suicide. I'm like, okay, that's enough. I have to do something. And so that was kind of the thing that got me involved in suicide prevention. But it still took me a few years. I had organized several conferences and education things before I was still ready to be open about my own. And it's for my friends, it's for my kids. I want them to feel safe. I want them to know that it's okay to ask for help. And how can I want them to ask for help if I'm not open about my own life? So
you saw a need for it because of the work that you do and because of what your kids could possibly go through, which is definitely, there's a self-sacrifice to it. It sounds like, it seems to me, but the reward outweighs the risk in my experience. And again, you were absolutely right. It's not for everyone to publicly disclose. I was doing a presentation at a school, speaking to faculty as opposed to students, who I usually speak to, and we were walking through, demonstrating what it's like to talk to a student as a teacher, to talk to a student who's suicidal, and how to refer them to professional help, and et cetera. And there was a moment because we improvised this scenario, and a teacher was telling a student, a fake student in the context of the improv, that they had once attempted themselves. And the principal said, you cannot disclose that for a variety of reasons. There could be potential lawsuit. The parents could call up if they find out and say, well, how could we trust you to take care of our kids if you can't take care of yourself, and that kind of a thing, which is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. And as you say, even in the suicide prevention field or mental health field, it's not always welcoming to people who have lived experience, people who have lived through a suicide attempt or self-harm. And I think that's to the field's detriment. I think that's to everyone's detriment when someone gets through something like that and is able to come out on the other side and speak about it in a productive and contextual way that offers hope and healing. That's different than someone just kind of, hey, I did this and I'm going to go over there now and do. Like you're telling it for a specific reason. And I think that's wonderful that you've gone on to do that. How has that affected family or friends? How is your disclosure affected family and friends, if at all?
Well, it was very upsetting to my parents to start with, because I told them the day before I told 300 and some strangers. I had never told them. They weren't upset that I was sharing it. They were upset that I'd carried it for that long. My children, they were very understanding. They knew I never told them I struggled with depression, but I guess apparently I wasn't as good at hiding it as I thought. So they were aware of that, but they didn't know that I had that previous attempt. And when I started sharing that, we were able to have conversations about it, and ultimately, I believe those conversations has actually saved one of my children's life. And so to me, it's been a really powerful thing. And professionally, when I share my story, like at work or when I do trainings and it's discussed, the amount of professionals that will talk to me, they're not ready to share openly and may never be, and that's okay. There are so many more people out there that are struggling or were struggling that work in this field or just live in society. That I think it helps provide comfort and helps kind of normalize it for them.
I would almost certainly say that it does. That it definitely helps normalize it and makes it okay to speak up and speak out. And in the case of whether it's definitive or impartial, that sharing your story saved one of your children's lives. That's why we do what we do. That's why you do what you do. And to be able to do that, especially for one's own child, there's no greater feeling than to be able to keep your child out of harm's way. And you had to go through a struggle, so they don't have to. So they don't have to be in the same pain that you had once been in. I'm glad to hear that your kids were receptive and that your folks were kind of like, I wish you spoke up and told us sooner, because we don't always hear that. There's still the shame and the stigma surrounding it. And you somewhat alluded to this, but having had to overcome a suicide attempt and even keeping it a secret and now disclosing, but really just the fact that the difficulty of itself, everything that you had been through in terms of the attempt so many years ago. From that experience, and this may be worded strangely or maybe a foreign concept, but I'm curious as to how this experience, because thank goodness you're alive and that you're here, and I'm so grateful for our friendship, but how has this experience coming out of it on the other side, how has it actually made you a better person, or how has it changed your life for the better, if at all?
Well, I mean, I can give you 3 examples off the top of my head. One, I feel much stronger and confident about wanting to live and being able to live, not just survive, but live. I believe that because I have felt that emotional pain, that torment, when I had that desire to not live anymore, that I felt that pain, I believe I can use that to help connect with others. And their pain may not be suicide. It may be depression. It may be self-injury. It may be whatever. And I may not understand exactly what they're going through, but I can understand that pain. I can understand that confusion. So I think that going through that process, it allows me to be able to empathize a lot better and then sharing it appropriately. Because, sharing it just to benefit me is not a good thing. But if I'm able to share enough or part of it to help them, somebody professionally or personal life, let them know that there is hope on that other side, that there are resources, there are people, there are things. I think that that's made me a better person, a better member of society. And I've also had to meet some really amazing people, Josh included.
Oh, shucks, you. Come on, mister. Having worked in this field, I can completely relate. I travel a lot, with speaking, etc. And just the amount of people that I've met, you meet 1,000 and you might become friends with 50 and good friends with 3. I would say the Kate Gerardo, the Missouri folks, you and Heather Williams and Monica Reagan, it's some of the beauty of having had to go through all that difficulty, because if I didn't do that, and if I didn't choose to tell my story, and if I didn't choose to help other people through that, I never would have met y'all. And it sounds like you're having a similar experience. And just the fact that you've been through this and you've chosen to reframe it as helping me help others, it's affecting my work for the better. My relationships are deepened and strengthened. Obviously, we hope that you, Rick, and anybody else don't have to be backed into a corner to have this kind of experience. Unfortunately, it seems that kind of happens far too often, myself included. I feel like I still haven't learned my lesson of having had to burn my hand on the stove without being told not to put your hand on the flame. It takes a special person to be able to do what you've done and to reframe that negative into a positive. And this is a theme on our show, people turning negatives into positives, liabilities into assets, and lemons into lemonade. You, my friend, are that guy. You are one of the premier lemonade baristas that I know, and grateful that you're here and you're doing what you're doing. All right, let's have some fun here. I call this our quick fire round. This is completely unrelated to the seriousness of the subject matter that we cover, whether it's physical health, mental health, anything in between. There are no right or wrong answers. We're just going to have fun, and then we'll kind of get back to what we came here for. But this is also a way that people get to know Rick full on. So here we go. Probably about 4 or 5 questions. First one, Rick, what is your favorite word?
Wow. Possible. I mean, I think things are possible. I'm trying to think of a favorite. I know I use that word a lot when I'm talking to my kids or I'm talking to other people. Hey, this is possible. Let's get it done. So I'm going to go with possible. I know it took me like possible. 6 hours to get that answer, but that's possible.
All right, possible. We'll cut out that 20 minutes of radio silence and possible is Rick's favorite word. What is your least favorite word?
Ant. Yeah, I can't do this. I can't do this. You can't do this.
Got it. Yeah, I don't like can't either. I thought you said aunt, and I was like, as in your father's sister or the bug? Yeah, can't. I don't like that word either. I don't like when people can't tell me I can't. I don't like when I hear people saying I can't. So, another one. What is or who is your spirit animal?
I don't know. You have to give me a definition of spirit animal.
I don't know, man. Spirit animal is like just somebody who kind of connects to your soul. Whether that's like you're like, I'm a worm, I'm a cat. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is my spirit animal. It could be anyone or anything, and there's no right answer. So
All right. So, I mean, if I was to pick an animal, I would have to say it's going to be a wolf. And it's because if you look at how wolf packs travel and they take care of each other, and they take care of their sick. They're the ones that are weaker or unhealthy. And it's just, I don't know, they've always fascinated me. And I think that's what, as a human, that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to take care of myself, but I also want to take care of my friends, my family, people I come across that may be struggling.
I dig it, ladies and gentlemen. Rick Strait is a wolf. A spirit animal is a wolf. And that's a really incredible thing to aspire to, the sentiment behind that. That's way cool. Two more. What are you terrible at?
Setting healthy boundaries for myself. I will take on any job, any request, and almost always say yes, even though I have no time to do it. And a lot of times, and most times at the expense of self-care. I will keep doing things to try to. I feel like that's a 24/7 thing. I'm working on that, where I need to be able to set some boundaries.
Gotcha. Yeah, set those healthy boundaries. In my world, I kind of do something similar, and I've gotten a little bit better at it. But I know if I take on 8 things, it's all D and F work, and if I take on like 2 or 3 things, there's a better chance that it's A work. And plus, I'm not losing my mind and being a total jerk to everybody because I'm unhappy and taking on too much work. So I totally get that.
I'm also a terrible cook.
Heard that about you. No, I haven't. You and the microwave's your best friend, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
The last one. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you as you enter? Or what would you like him to say to you as you're getting kicked out?
Well, I hope I'm not getting kicked out. I hope that I'd be told that you treated people with respect, dignity, and compassion, and that it showed.
I think you can bank on that, man. I think you can bank on that because I know you as somebody who does that, and I'll put in a good word for you. How about that?
Thank you. I was kind of afraid about getting kicked out because I was hanging out with Josh.
Yeah, you might get kicked out, actually. You might get close to the gate and, there's landmines to keep us out. That's how bad it's going to be. That is the end of our quick fire round. Rick, what does the future hold for you? What is the next year or two? What does that look like for you? What's going on? What's your vision? What's happening? What might hold you back? What do you think? Your optimism. What do you think the next couple of years hold for you?
Well, I have lots of plans, but the 2 biggest things I really want to do is I have 2 book ideas. I know I shared one with you last year, and I made the commitment to work on a little bit every week. I've not done that. So I want to do that in the next 2 years, and I hope to maybe speak more about my lived experience and sharing that in a way that other people can be hopefully empowered to be able to share theirs and hopefully save lives. I also plan on going on some vacations with my grandchildren and children.
Fantastic. I like the next couple of years for you, and I know that those intentions you're setting, at least in saving lives and helping others and coming up with new ways to do that, I don't see why that wouldn't happen. You've been through a whole hell of a lot worse. Why can't you hit a couple of stumps and keep moving forward? I've got a lot of confidence in you and what you're doing. And if people want to get in touch with you and follow you, and I know you have a blog as well, but if people want to follow you, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to hear more from Rick, what's the best way to do that?
I mean, they're welcome to email me, just rickstrait777@gmail.com, or I'm on Twitter. I'm not a real good tweeter, but I occasionally do at rickstrait777, and those are probably the easiest 2 ways.
Okay. And what is your blog? What's the link to that? We'll get it in the show notes, but I want to hear a little bit about it.
What is the link, or what is the blog
or
about?
Or the link, or the name, or whatever. We'll get that in the show notes. But what is it? What's it about?
Okay, well, it's listeningsaveslives.net, and it's myself and one of your other authors, Heather Williams. We share about lived experience, and we do it different ways. Sometimes the stories are really deep and emotional, and sometimes it's talking about human connection. Sometimes it's talking about awareness. Sometimes it's more educational. So I may talk about depression or overcoming a suicide attempt, or I may talk about mental health first aid. It's just to try to engage and provide some perspective for hopefully other individuals.
Brilliant, and I've gotten a chance to read many of what you've got there, and I'm appreciative of what you and Heather are doing with that blog and with those pieces of writing. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is Rick Strait in a bigger nutshell than when we started, and I am so glad that we got a chance to chat and I hope you find Rick as interesting and as kind and generous as I do and as I have. And Rick, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the I'm Possible Project Show with Joshua Rivedal and guest Rick Strait.
I love sharing stories and how to turn impossible into I'm possible. If you want more inspirational stories, our second and third books are available right now. Changing Minds, Breaking Stigma, Achieving the Impossible, as well as Lemonade Stand. Both contain powerful stories of overcoming tremendous odds. When life gives you lemons, squeeze, add sugar, and pick up a copy of the I'm Possible Project. That's IAMPossibleProject.com/2/TWO or IAMPossibleProject.com/lemonade. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're more than a community. You're part of the I'm Possible family. Until next time, sending you lots of love.